Welcome, everyone, to Spotlight on the 5th episode. We have an incredible cast. Not only are an amazing star, which we're going to just have so much fun and just grateful honoring Diana Zimmerman, but absolutely we've got a cast, an extraordinary cast. Lance Burton, Christopher Hart, Nick Lewin, Ed Alonzo. We've got Bill Smith. We got we have Stephen Barnes. Just amazing, just amazing. So thank you all for joining us. I'll say quick shout out to Roger, Blackiston, Brooks, Jonas, John O'Riordan from the UK. We already have an international cast of people watching this. Let's just, I have to let someone in. I think everyone, we are cruising. So it is absolutely my pleasure to bring in just an extraordinary woman, extraordinary person. And no one could have ever guessed that a young girl growing up in Arizona would ultimately have so much impact on the art of magic. And as the older I get and the more I recognize that how one affects the other and affects the other, is that it's exponential. You can't even comprehend, in my opinion, the direct and then indirect and indirect and indirect, the whole butterfly effect that this woman's time and energy and efforts have caused, both as a performer, but also as the leader and really the spearheading the junior members of the Magic Castle. So it just great pleasure, great honor. I'm going to bring up our woman of the hour. Please welcome Diana Zimmerman. Here she is. I'm going to unmute you. There we go. Yep, you're set.
Wow. With an introduction like that, I don't think I really even need to say anything, but you almost made me cry. That is so sweet. That is so sweet. Thank you.
Oh.
I do want to give a shout out to Brooks Littell, because Brooks Littell was I think he's on, you said he is my absolute mentor and teacher who really helped me. I'm trying to work on writing scripts and stuff. So Brooks, here's to you.
Well, that's great. One of my things is we never stop learning. No. That's the best thing I ever learned, is never stop learning. Yes, we got a bunch of people joining us from around the world. So yes, Brooks Littell is there. Excellent. So Diana, we're going to sort of go. What's that? Excuse me?
I said, excuse me. Yeah.
No, it's fine. We have an incredible cast waiting in the wings, but just for a few minutes, I would like to, number one, express my absolute sincere gratitude personally for all that you've done. I mean, I recognize that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the work you did even before I arrived on the scene, and the junior members, and what the process of things. We've discussed this a little bit last week, but the work that put in to simply get the junior member group up and going. But before that, I'm going to take just a couple minutes, because I want to go back to, I've got a couple of photos for you. I love this. Okay, here we go. Who would have thought that this little girl on stage I think this starts out, I think you were 7. I'm going to let you explain, but again, would have so much impact, incomprehensible amount of impact on the world of magic.
Well, I have to say that I grew up in poverty. I mean, when I was 5 years old, we were picking cotton so we could eat. My family made $3 a day picking cotton. And so magic was my escape into a world where I could be a princess. I could be somebody special. And so I started performing magic. The picture in the middle is actually one of the reasons why we have a youth group here at the Magic Castle. We have a junior program at the Magic Castle, which Steve Barnes, who is there, is just taken that group and turned it into something beyond anything I could have imagined. And he deserves a standing ovation too. But I did a hula act, and there was a Rabbits in Our Hat Magic Club in Phoenix, Arizona, run by a wonderful man named Don Seth. And so what you see in the center is me with a black wig on and a temple screen and producing flowers and doing all sorts of things at the Phoenix PCAM convention. And it was at that moment that I was hooked. I absolutely had to. I knew at that moment I was going to do magic for the rest of my life. Well, at least I thought I did. But anyhow.
I like the tiki backdrop. You went to even the length of having a little tiki god backdrop behind you. That was just.
It was.
And then we've got the French maid on the right. We've got clearly a little evolution and an award. You're holding an award already. Look at this.
Well, when I was 13, I decided I was going to enter the PCM Magic Convention in Vancouver, and my dad kept telling me, "Don't worry if you don't win. You know, the boys are all older than you, and blah 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 blah." And my hero at that time, I had pictures of him up on the wall, was Peter Ravine. I hadn't met Lance Burton yet, or he would have been my hero. Well, or Nick Lewin, or Chris, or Ed Alon. I mean, hadn't met you guys yet, so So I saved all my money. I sold grapefruit to raise money to drive up to Vancouver, Canada, from Phoenix, Arizona, where I lived. And I entered into the magic convention. And just after I finished the competition was over, who comes walking out but Peter Ravine? And he says, he said, Diana, he says, I think you're going to win this one. It turned out he was one of the judges, and I did win. And that was like the biggest thrill of my entire life. Not only did I win, but I got like almost a perfect score. And it plays to be blonde and cute, But so the next picture in the French Maid was when
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. The next picture in the French Maid was when I entered again when I was 15, and I won again. And then I entered again, and then they wouldn't let me enter anymore because they said it wasn't fair to the boys that I was winning too much.
And here you are with your zombie ball again.
When I was president of the Young Scientists of America, and we were doing a show for a bunch of scientists, and I did zombie. And afterwards, they all came up to me with these theories about how I had overcome the gravitational pull with using various gases and stuff. The picture on with me with the dancing canes was the very first show I ever did at the Magic Castle, with Cary Grant in the audience. And Cary is one of the reasons that we have a junior program. Without his support, there'd be no junior program, or at least I would have taken a lot longer to get it started. That's a whole nother story. I can tell it now, or I can tell it when we talk with Steve, or whatever you like.
That's fine. Yeah, that's all right. The middle one, I love this shot. Now, we know where that is. That's at the turret of the Magic Castle, right outside of what was Bill's office. But,
Shirley Carroll,
if I recall.
Shirley Carroll was the greatest PR lady that I ever met, and a massive influence on my life. And this was taken the year I did the It's Magic show with my record act. I did a whole act with phonograph records, for those of you that don't know. Not 2 phonograph records, but with phonograph records. It was sort of the beginning of the Gramophone Act and everything. And so Shirley wanted some publicity shots. And so we ended up getting like 2 pages in the LA Times, and that was what that picture was from, posed from, just around the Magic Castle and everything. So
I believe this is the, here we go. You mean the act in the center?
Yeah, the act in the center. That's my little dog, Chloe. And actually, Doug Henning was the one that told me about Yorkies, and I went out and bought a Yorkie. And that was the record act, which later became the Gramophone Act, which later Lance Burton did. And I tell you, when Lance said he wanted to do the Gramophone, I was just beside myself and honored. I just couldn't believe that Lance Burton, who I was such a and still am in awe of, would want to do one of my tricks. So that was it. And the others were pose tricks. The one with the cards, there's a great story there, because when I first got to California, of course, I had no money. I came to California with $47 to my name, conned my way into an apartment because I only had $25 and it was $100 a month rent, and I conned my way in with a deposit. And then I hid from the apartment manager till I could get a job. But I had finally saved enough money to get some publicity pictures done, and I marched into Shirley Carroll, the PR lady, when I was going to do the It's Magic show, and showed her my pictures, and she ripped it up, and she said, "This is awful. I want you to go to the best photographer in Hollywood and get pictures made." And she picks up the phone. She says, "Yeah, do it for $500. Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be fine." I said, "Shirley, I didn't even have $75 to pay for the pictures I had." And she said, "You will not have Aunt Martha photos. You're going to go to the best photographer in Hollywood. If you have to wash his car or pay it off a little at a time, you go to the best." And it was one of the best lessons I ever taught. And believe me, I did take a long time to pay the man off, but the picture with the cards went all over the world. And
these ones that sort of exactly evolving, looking how you're clearly professional photographer, the posed one with the doves and on the left, and of course the classic on the right, the center. This was where I first saw you, was on the Wonderful World of Magic show when I was still a teenager living in Reno, and I saw the record act. I saw the act, the hoop act that you did with Dick. So by the time we actually met a few years later, you were already one of my heroes, because I think all of us who grew up and became that what I would say is that golden age of the juniors. We grew up watching Doug Henning. We grew up watching The Wonderful World of Magic. And they set the benchmark, and you were part of that. You were one of the ones. In fact, you were the only woman that I recall. that was like I remember the Record Act, again, the things that were on that. So
it wasn't hard
it's
to be
such
the number one lady magician in the world when there's only 3 in the world.
well, but you said that someone's got to do it. So, you know, you were clearly at the forefront. And one has to simply, at the very least, give credit where it's due. To me, regardless of gender, the effect you've had, the influence you've had on magic, again, is just extraordinary, incalculable. So we will continue. I wanted to just sort of quick trip down memory lane with those photos. I got a whole bunch more racked up. You mentioned Lance. So why don't we bring Lance up? We can bring Lance in. We've got to get a whole bunch of people waiting in the wings. Are you ready? I'm going to ask to unmute Lance there. So bring him in.
Yeah.
Please welcome my friend, long time, extraordinary, one of the true gentlemen of magic. Here we go. And I'll drop out so the two of you get
now. Look at that. There's a photo of that gramophone. And there I am, and there's the gramophone, and there's Joelle, and that's Stephanie on top, and there's the cone coming down on top of her. Hey, Diana, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Lance. You're looking wonderful. How's Kentucky?
Oh, great. Yes, I'm here on the farm, and I got up this morning, and I fed all the animals, and I went over and got some firewood, and just looking forward to seeing you.
You know, I don't know if all of you know it, but Lance is a big supporter of animal rights and animals, and of course, so am I. And not only is he one of the most extraordinary people in magic, but he's also an animal guy too. So
yeah, I love animals. I have my dog Rocky. He was at the vet yesterday, and he got his annual shots. So he's been sleeping all day today. So we may not see him, but there's a bunch of cats roaming around that I rescued that were all born on Gary Darwin's back porch. So some of them may walk by as we're chatting. So you mentioned earlier the gramophone, and you know, first of all, I some of those photos I had never seen before that Jay was showing. Those are fantastic. I remember the first time I saw you was on a television show where you were doing the Record Act, and then you did the gramophone. And I have to tell you, do you remember what show was that? Was that an HBO?
I think that was Mumbo Jumbo It's Magic. Was that Mumbo Jumbo It's Magic? Was I doing just the gramophone or the Record Act too? Or what?
I can't remember. Maybe I'm confusing a couple of different shows. Maybe I saw you on a couple of different shows.
Yeah, probably.
But I remember the first time I saw the gramophone was on television, and it just absolutely amazed me. It floored me. And then years later, you know, when it came up for sale, I was jumped on it and said, "Oh, that's a great illusion, and I want to do it." And so I've got it here in Kentucky. I built here on the farm. I built a big metal barn, and where I've got all my magic props. And so I've got your gramophone over there, and I've got a second one that I had made also.
I think Bill Smith made that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Bill is on there, one of the great magic builders in the world.
Bill made my gramophone, and the original one was Eric Lewis. Am I remembering that
Eric
right?
Lewis and Peter DePaula. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it was one of my. I had two. I wound up with two eventually. One I used at the Monte Carlo, and the other one was for the touring show. Oh. And so I took your gramophone whenever we went on the road. Went to Japan with me, and California, and Atlantic City, and all over the place.
You know, this is the legacy that magic has, and I think that all of us everyone that's sitting here is leaving legacies, and it's just so incredible to see that, you know, I could have a trick and then it could be performed by Lance Burton, and then that it goes all over. And I think if you look at everybody on this panel, you've all left legacies, and this is what it's about. When I was 13, Di Vernon taught me the wand spin. I mean, my goodness, a little kid from the slums that learned the wand spin from Di Vernon, and Chris does that, and Nick does that, and Ed does that, and Bill does that, and Lance does that. Lance's your big junior thing is coming up pretty soon.
That's right. We have our at the IBM convention in July. We're having our teen seminar. So hopefully we're going to be able to meet in person this year. The last 2 years we've done it virtually through Zoom, but this year we're going to get together. Oh, look, now here's a photo. There's me and you, and that must be at the Academy of Magical Art. Is that one of the junior awards?
Steve Barnes. We're presenting Steve Barnes, who is here, who is
nice.
I will bring up Ed. Ed, you ready to come up? I'm going to unmute Ed over here. You know? Since you were talking about him, another extraordinary, get a long time. Oh, he went to face. Whoa, there he is. Alonzo.
Wow.
Welcome back to that picture. Show.
I have a little mustache in that picture, don't I?
Ed, you do. You do have a mustache.
I don't even have that picture. Look how young I look in that picture. Can you put it up again, Jay?
It's there.
Up.
It's there.
Is it up now? Maybe.
Hold on, I will drop everyone out.'ll really be able to see it.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
That. Wow, I look exactly the same.
We had a couple of questions about bringing the photos up for Big Side. Look at this.
Wow.
On the left, Lance, I love the hair. That's just a classic. And Steven, we'll get you up in a second. I never saw that photo until Diana sent it to me. Either one of these. So some of these, Lance, you're talking about, it was only because Diana sent me this giant file. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what an extraordinary treasure trove.
The file had to be so big to contain the hair.
Oh, we have stories about Lance Burton that we could go on. We honor you, Lance, when he does you on this tribute. Boy, have we got stories. Like when you and I were locked in the cabinet.
Oh, together. Now I can tell that story. That was the first time I met Diana. This was over 40 years ago, Diana. It was
no, it was 5 years ago.
It was 1981. and we were both booked to perform at the Tannen's Magic Convention up in the Catskills. And this was just a month or two before I moved out to California and did the It's Magic show and did my first Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So I was not many people really knew me in the magic world at that point.
You had already won FISM though, so you were pretty big. Well,
I had won the IBM gold medal, but FISM was still
IBM. Okay,
a year or two away. So anyway, we're performing on the show up at Tannen's, and the closing act is Ralph Adams. And for his finale, he's got this modern cabinet, and he's going to show it empty, and he's going to produce the entire cast that they've just seen out of the cabinet. So Diana and I and Milt Larson are hiding inside this cabinet. And we'd only had like a 2-minute rehearsal that afternoon. So he spins it around and he closes the curtain and opens it away. And there's Milt Larson. Here's Milt. He's back. And Milt takes his bow. He closes the curtain again and spins it around a second time. And during that time where he's spinning it, Diana says to me, "Hey, when we appear, should we be embracing?" And I say, "Oh yeah, we should." So we open the secret panel. I grab her like I'm kissing her, and then Ralph Adams opens the curtain, and we both look up at the audience with a shocked look on our face, and got a huge laugh. And I think the most surprised person in the room was Ralph Adams.
It was hysterical. It got this massive reaction, and it was just so funny. But, I never miss a chance to be with handsome guys. Look who I have today. I mean, guys around today. It was just one of the funniest moments that I ever remember. But
it was improvised. We didn't plan it ahead of time.
No, it wasn't.
We were in the moment.
It's great.
Wow.
But
amazing. What a great story. I love that.
And Alonzo and of course Christopher Hart are two of the most extraordinary juniors to come out of the program. And I remember when Ed first auditioned. I don't think you got in the first time, right, Ed?
I didn't. You know what? I had to audition twice. That's how tough this lady is. Now I'll tell you, I had not seen Diana perform on The World's Greatest Magic or any of those shows when I came to audition for the Magic Castle as a junior. And I believe it was 1974 or 75 that I auditioned. And I came in not really knowing anything other than this was the palace of greatness for old magicians. So I came in with my audition and I had a dove act, and it was horrible. It was terrible. And I remember watching the other acts that were on that same day. And at the end of the day, I could tell which ones were going to be picked to become members. And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, I got, I think it was a letter in the mail that says, you know, you did not qualify for the, and horrible. But then I knew that I needed to try this again. And I took all of the things that I learned from watching the other young performers audition, and I put that into my act. So I had now changed what was a regular horrible dove act into a comedy dove act, which of course lent to many, many things that I didn't realize that I had inside of me, good facial tics and things that just came naturally. But this was the moment that I became a member with this comedy act. I had a rose to silk on my lapel, and I pulled the silk and it got caught, and then I really yanked on it and the whole lapel ripped off. That was one of the laughs. And then a dove came out of the lapel. So that was the kind of stuff I did. Now, once I became a junior member, then things really changed, because that's when Diana talked to the junior members about theme acts. What an invaluable lesson this was. Now, this works for people doing close-up magic, parlor magic, stage magic. There needs to be a theme, a thread that runs through it. So the first thing that I did was I was watching the successful juniors, Mark Kalin, who had probably one of the best theme acts ever, that billiard act. Dirk Arthur with the colored birds and the emus, and I loved it. It had a perfect theme. So I needed to come up with a perfect theme. So I became the telephone magician. Worst theme ever. But I stuck to it, and I had a zombie telephone. It was horrible. And I wanted to be Mark Kalin so bad.
No,
it wasn't horrible. No, it wasn't
Ed,
horrible.
this was a classic act.
Oh, no,
I remember it so well, man. Come on, we did a lot of shows together.
Well, if it wasn't for that horrible act, I would not be in the better place that I am today. And I'll tell you why. Diana will remember this. Once I turned 21, it was my last year. I was 20. My last year to be part of the Moments of Magic show with the junior, which was our annual show. And this was the best training ground ever, because the junior members would go to the Mayfair Theater. We would run the curtains. We would open the stage trap. We swept the stage. We set the props for our fellow performers. This was the great learning ground that I hope still continues. So now I'm doing this telephone act, and it's horrible. And I say to Diana, I'm getting out of magic. I'm not doing magic. I'm not going to be able to do it's the Moments of Magic show. And she said, okay. And she talked to the other people, Kevin James, what will you do? Oh, I'll do my act with the flip stick. And okay. And then there was another young performer, Danny Scott, and he grew out of his tuxedo. And so he didn't have an act anymore. And so Diana said, Danny, what are you going to do on the show? He said, well, I don't have an act. And he says, well, you and Ed get together and you put something together. And we talked for a couple of minutes. And I said, you know what? I have an idea. Why don't we do Sigmund and Freud? I'll be Siegfried and you'll be Roy. And let's present this to Diane at the end of the meeting. So we did. And she loved it. And she said, you know what? You're going to need a blonde wig. I said, well, where do I going to get a blonde? She said, I'm going to bring you one of my wigs. Well, I didn't even know she wore wigs. I think if you remember the period of years where we only saw Diana in hats, maybe. Mm-hmm. So she brings a wig to the junior meeting, and then I take it to a barbershop and I get it styled, holding up the World's Greatest Magicians book, showing the barber a picture of Siegfried. I need it cut like this. Now I put the wig on and the suit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am Roy. Come over to the cage and you will see Sabu. So then I thought, it's all coming together. So this is the second thing. So first, theme act. Second is giving me the blessing to do a character on stage. Without those two elements, I could not have done the fun things that I have done in the last 30 years. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is such a sweet thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think the reality is, though, people are always saying, you know, if it wasn't for this person, if it wasn't for that person, when you just look at the talent, you know, you look at the talent in this group right here. I mean, you know, there's just so much talent. All of you would have succeeded. It's just that the great thing about magic, the greatest thing about magic is the fraternity that we have and the fact that we all do help each other and we all do work with each other. I mean, Lance has inspired me. Nick Lewin, you know, terrific inspiration. Oh my God, my respect for Bill Smith is just over the moon. They're just, not only is he a wonderful performer, but he's an incredible builder of magic. He's built some of my greatest illusions for corporate world, which we can talk about in a minute, Bill, if you don't mind. And then look at Chris Hart. Oh my God, you know, talk about an act with a theme that resonates and a brand. And then you get into Nick Lewin, who helped get the junior program started. And Nick, maybe you can talk for a minute about that. And then Steve, I want you to talk a little bit about too, but Nick, maybe those early days of Nick. I got to write an article about Nick. I was so honored. So
I'm going to actually jump in. I'm 1 second. I'm not in Cary. Now, this is what's so cool about this incredible medium. Here's Cary halfway around the world from me, sending me this. Look at this while we're talking. Within 30 seconds, I'm able to grab it, boom. And that was, oh my gosh, the evening program. Dirk Arthur, David Barnes, Lark Hunter, Carrie Ross, Jeff Williams. And this was like the year before I became a junior. So I actually saw this show. I was in the audience for this show. Cary, huge. Oh my
Cary
goodness.
Ross, you are amazing. And incidentally,
I can't believe I love this. Look at this. Talk about a bit of history. And I'm sure Nick knows about this as well. So I think it's a perfect chance. Look at there's, oh, Heidi Larson.
I know. I forgot
my.
that Heidi did an act on the show. She was lovely, bless her heart.
Oh,
But Cary is running for the board, so don't forget to vote. So
look, I just talk about, I can't believe, Cary, you dug this out, boom, just that fast. Oh, man. So I am going to, look, we're going to keep this going. Thank you so much. And Diana, everything you said, I agree with. Ed, we're going to have you back. Let's bring in Nick because, you know, he and I have great stories, but I didn't realize how much he had to do. Nick, hey, buddy, how are you? I didn't know how much you had to do with the early junior members until I was chatting with Diana last week. And she's like, oh, you got to unmute you. Just a second. Get you unmuted. There we go.
yes, he does.
I'll drop out. You guys can chat for a second.
Nick Lewin, I call him, when I wrote the article, I called him the best kept secret in magic because he is so amazing and so incredible. He's absolutely, as are all of you, but, you know, I've always admired Nick and thought he was one of the great performers in magic. And his show that he did in Las Vegas, his afternoon show, was just beyond hysterical. Nobody does linking finger rings better than Nick Lewin. So,
well, thank you. I don't know that I was instrumental in anything. I think the junior program was you. Through and through. But what I came into it from a different approach slightly. I'd been, of course, growing up in England, and I was in the Junior Magician of the Year contest with the Magic Circle. And one of the big prizes and the big deal was that they gave you a membership. And I was so excited because I was probably about 17, 18 at the time, and that was part of the deal. And then somebody said very nicely, very British, well, of course, you can't actually come into the club until you're 21, which ruled out everything. And by the time I was 21, I was living in California. So I'd always felt that there had not been an organization that I could really be a part of that could have helped me in those early years. There were individuals, Ken Brook, Billy McComb, but there wasn't really an organization at that time. So when I knew you were doing that, and I know you mentioned just briefly earlier on about Cary Grant, and I know how that actually came. Is that a story you can tell, Diana?
Oh yeah, yeah. That what happened was that Cary saw my very first show at the Magic Castle, the one where I was doing the dancing canes that you showed earlier in the picture, and he and I became friends. I got a phone thing going here, but I'll speak a little louder. And we became friends, and we used to sit and chat at the bar sometimes. And he said, you know, Diana, it's just a shame. There's no way for kids to be a member of the castle. Well, that board that you see right there, I had been pounding on their door forever, you know, trying to get a youth program going. And Ron Wilson was a big person that didn't want a youth program, and Bill was afraid because it was a nightclub, it would be too complicated and blah, blah, blah. So Cary said, you come with me, Diana. And he takes me into the board meeting, which was about to start, which my ex-husband was on. And he says, Diana has an idea, and good one. And so I gave my idea and then got out of there before Dick Sayers killed me. I gave my idea and then I'm hearing a double there. Is that weird? Is that better? Okay. And so I ran out, and then 5 minutes later, Cary came running out. Diana, we're going to do it. So then I got together with the House Committee, which Nick was on, and Jerry Blount was on, and Glenn Falkenstein was on it. And we said, look, guys, we can do it. So they wouldn't let us do the auditions at the castle. So we did them at the Troubadour or the Maskers Club?
The Maskers Club.
Maskers. Yeah, and we had 100 kids show up, and Rick Gerber was our very, very first one let in, and Dirk Arthur was in that group, and a number of other people, and it was that was in 1975, and it was just incredible. We had our very first meeting, I think, in March of that year, and it was just incredible. But the support from people like Nick and Glenn and people, and then we fought for years to keep the program going, because there was a number of times throughout its history that they wanted to cancel the program. The members would complain that the juniors were taking up too much room at the lectures, and there were kids involved. So, you know, we fought for years. But now, because half the board of trustees, people like Christopher Hart, who is extraordinary, you know, are on the board, we don't have that problem anymore. And of course, under Steve Barnes' leadership, it's just become a whole new, he's completely reinvented. It's just fabulous. So.
Well, I love that story.
Oh, go ahead, please.
And it was so
Go
nice
ahead, Nick.
to be a part of it. As I say, I didn't feel like a big part, but I do remember being at the Maskers Club, and I was so impressed. There was such a parade of talent going on. I mean, act after act after act. How you were going to find this down to who joined, who didn't. The only thing you could say, well, somebody in another year might be better or not, but so much talent. But I love that video at the beginning that Jay did, because it was like, I actually thought I died. It was like a tunnel of light with pictures flashing in front of my eyes. And I thought I died, and I was really Diana Zimmerman. And it was a pretty good life. But, you know, I have to say, just moving from the juniors for a moment, what I really was so impressed, I remember the Gramophone Act, the Record Act, which incidentally is so good, I'm stealing it. I'm going to be doing it now, but with downloads, which I've discovered it's a lot easier.
You know, that's the legacy bit I was telling you guys about.
That's right. But I was, I remember, and I was really impressed, because your determination about the youth program was really quite profound. I mean, this was going to happen, and I could pick these things up, but there was a steely determination, and I loved the show. But I will never forget watching, going into the castle, when you decided to do the Pickpocket Act, which different thing. And I mean, and to my mind, I went, oh my God, what could be more commercial than a beautiful woman picking pockets of men on stage? And I thought a little bit of the Pat Collins, the hypnotist, and I thought, this is the best. And wow, what bravery I think it took to break in and act like that at the castle. I don't think that was easy, was it?
Well, you know, it was really interesting because everybody told me that that was a dumb idea for a girl to do a pickpocket act. It was a really stupid idea. Nick was one of the very few people that championed my doing it. And he's one of the reasons that I think I had the courage to do it. And then I couldn't find anybody to teach me. And so it was this whole thing. So I used to practice stealing watches by going down the line of the cat that was waiting to get into the castle. But it was my all-time favorite thing to do. It was my all-time favorite thing to do because it's like being in the ring with a bull. You know, you just never know what's going to happen. And you know, I mean, I would in the 80s, you know, guys would have cocaine in their pockets, and here's your put that back in. Or one time somebody had a bottle of nail polish in his pocket that the top came off. And, oh God! And then you know, I did learn one very important tip from Ricky Dunn, and that is always carry extra bands, very expensive extra watch bands, because leather strap bands will break. And so you always want to be able to give them a really expensive band if you break one. And that was the biggest lesson I learned about pickpocketing. But the funniest show I ever did was when I was working at the castle. And remember Amelga Marcus, the lady with all the shoes, you know, that her husband was, well, she was there with her husband, and it was all Secret Service. Out of the 90 seats, it was almost all Secret Service. Well, they all carry guns, right? Well, guns are meant to come out of holsters, not stay in the holsters. So I picked two really burly Secret Service guys, and they come up and I do the act, you know, and then at the end I give them their watches. And then just as they're going back to their seats, I says, oh, and guys, here's a little something else for you. And I held up both of their guns.
Wow.
You couldn't do it today because people would be afraid, but the screams out of the...
Well, I don't want to hog time, but I have to say, I was always so impressed in the way you could pivot from thing to thing. You went from that to the Illusion show, which that's a big change, and then you became a producer. And I worked with you, and a very good producer, because you knew it from both sides, but you really had a view of that was amazing. And then you became a best-selling author. I mean, my idea of pivoting is taking the dollar bill from the lemon instead of an orange. And what do you think it is? Because I think people would love to hear that. What do you think it is that gave you the power to be able to pivot as gracefully and successfully as you have done throughout your career?
Fear.
Good answer.
Chutzpah, sheer chutzpah.
I'm actually working on a new book called A Magical Thinking, and I want to get some other people in here, not just about me, because I want to get Chris in here, I want to get Bill in here. But I'm actually working on a new book called A Magical Thinking, which I want all of you to be part of. But basically what that is that is a book that talks about make magic your foundation, not your ceiling. Too many people use magic as their foundation, as their ceiling. I made that mistake when I was a little girl. I wanted to be the #1 lady magician in the world. Well, a wonderful PR guy named Bruce Marin helped me achieve that by the time I was like 25 or 26. I mean, gosh, I got a lot farther to go. And so I had done my own TV show for 5 minutes, Enchanted Palace. I had, you know, starred all over the world. I had done all this stuff. And I was like, now what do I do? So that's when I decided to start CMS, my company, that Nick did some incredible shows for me. Oh my gosh, he was just incredible. And Bill Smith, just even a couple years ago, designed some great illusions. I mean, he made this like 2-ton massive big halcyon machine, which I want Bill to talk about just a little bit too. But so I think it's just a case of constantly climbing mountains. I mean, right now I'm trying to turn my books into a TV series. That's the highest mountain I've climbed. So anybody knows, anybody help me out here, but you know, but I think it's just always looking at what is the next thing I can do? How can I achieve? I mean, kind of look what Lance has done. I mean, Lance, you know, went from being, you know, Fizz winner to a star and then he said, to hell with it. He said, I'm going to go now be a gentleman farmer. How cool is that? I mean, how cool is that? So, you know, and you know, it's just incredible what you can do if you don't put limits on yourself. Too many people limit themselves. Magic is it. That's it. Look what Jay is doing. I mean, he's not only one of the greatest magicians performing today, but now he's documenting people and bringing it out to the world and doing incredible things. I mean, Steve Barnes is a wonderful performer, and Steve is now managing the junior program and creating a whole new generation of Ed Alonzos and Christopher Harts and Lance Burtons and J. Scott Berrys and Nick Lewins and so, you know, but look what Chris is doing. He serves on the board of trustees, and he's our champion at the program, and his knowledge is just incredible. So, it's I guess I just get bored.
I'm going to go ahead and bring in Bill Smith and Steven, because they're sitting here waiting really patiently in the wings. And thank you I'm just going to, what you said was so key. I just want to keep coming back to this point, is that had it not been for a couple of key moments with Cary Grant saying, come on, we're going to do this, because there was opposition. And as young juniors, we didn't realize that there was this opposition in the board of directors. We just were like, whoa, it's like Ed said, we go in, we try our best, we give it a shot. Christopher comes in. And then to look back now and realize, oh my gosh, had you and Cary Grant not really pushed for this, again, none of us would be here. Everyone we've inspired wouldn't be here. The exponential, how it's the waves that it's given through the art of magic. It's just extraordinary. So please welcome Bill Smith. Oh man, another longtime friend, one of the greatest illusion builders I think of all time. Just extraordinary gentleman. I'll bring Bill in right now. I'm going to drop out and also bring in Stephen Barnes, because you've been mentioning him. So I'm going to bring both of you in. Stephen, great to see you. Please welcome to the stage. Look at these two gentlemen.
Hello.
Can I unmute you, Stephen?
And I also have a couple of special guests here visiting me, David Sandy and Lance Rich.
Oh my goodness. Hi, guys.
They're helping me working on my Collectors Expo, working on the program.
Which is phenomenal. If you haven't to go.
David, how's Nick's bio and picture coming?
I just drew something by hand. Look, I can tell the difference.
Well, this is great.
If you have not signed up to go to this seminar, it is just
it's in Austin.
It's in Austin this year. Yeah.
Lance is going. Of course, Nick's going to be there, and so it's going to be great. So it's only 5 weeks away, 5 or 6 weeks away already. Wow. But hey, what year did Eric build your gramophone? Do you remember?
It would have been about 1980, 79, or no, it was before that, because I did Sorcery 79.
Yeah, it was in the 70s.
It was in the 70s. It had to have been in the 70s, because I started my show in Tahoe in I'm looking up because there's a poster up there, in 1979. So it had to have been in the mid.
I think it was pretty neat. It's kind of things that go full circle in magic. That I forgot that Peter DePaula was down there helping Eric, but then I guess Peter was gone or something. So Buzz Regatz, who actually had the workshop set up for Eric, I went down there for a couple of days and worked on it.
I know. Can you imagine?
And so then 30 years later, I'm making Lance's spare one. So
Bill said, I know how that works, Lance. I can make one.
yeah. So.
But Bill is not only, Bill is an incredible builder of magic, but Bill is also a wonderful performer. Nobody does the duck bucket like Bill does, There's different things like that.
Takes a lot of skill to do that duck bucket.
Hey, Diana, I hear, hey, Bill, how are you?
Hey, Lance.
I heard you talking about the Pickpocket Act. I saw you do that Pickpocket Act at the Magic Castle many years ago, and I loved it. But it reminded me, when you were talking, I never heard that story before about what was it? It was Imelda Marcos.
Yeah.
And the guns. I have a story similar to that, which relates to the gramophone. When I was at the Hacienda Hotel, by the way, I did that gramophone probably 10,000 times in my career.
Isn't that an honor?
I always loved doing that. It was a great trick. I did it a little bit different than you because I vanished and then I appeared in the audience. Right. So I changed just the plot, just a hair, just a little bit.
It just made it better. That's all.
One night we had some VIPs coming into the show, and it wasn't the Sultan of Brunei, but I think it was like his niece or his daughter or something, but she was with the royal family. And they bought out like 20 seats. They had the whole row of booths, and they had the bodyguards. So there were armed guards in the house. So I'm getting ready for the show, and they tell me this, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? When I appear in the middle of the audience during the gramophone, the VIP is going to be sitting in that center booth, and that's where I appear, standing on the back of the booth. I would hate to get shot in the middle of the show. So
I asked Etta Lynn, my assistant, I said, go out there before the show, find the head of security and let them know. Please don't tell the Sultan's niece what's going to happen, but find the head of security, let them know Lance is going to come running through from that door right there. He's going to jump up here. Please do not shoot him during the show.
Oh my God, I have never heard that story. That is the greatest story. Oh, that's so wonderful. But you know, Bill Smith also, was responsible for keeping the Blackstone touring show working. I mean, he was,
10 years.
And incredible on that, and just amazing. But so I got this great idea for my corporate company, CMS, and I got this great idea that I wanted to make this 2-ton like linear accelerator, which is a thing that they use to treat, that we were launching for a company called Varian, the largest maker of radiation therapy units. And I got this great idea. So I called Bill, and I came up there, and I brought my client up there and everything. I said, but I want to make this thing appear, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And Bill's looking at me, okay, I know Nutty Diana, but I'll figure it out. And so he came up with this osmosis idea, and it just completely blew my client away, and completely blew all of the people that were there away. And to this day, they still talk about Bill's incredible magical thing that he did for you. I mean, he made me such a hero. So the next year he did another one for me, and Bill had the capacity to make me a big hero for that company.
I wish I would have charged you more.
It's okay. He charged me.
Yeah.
Bill built my whole show.
I know. He said he paid for my son's college, my house.
I paid for your son's lunch.
No, you did. No. But no, Diana, it was in that, coming from I was a Long Beach Mystics, of course, and I Castle member early, started working the Castle with Peter Pitt. And then when I went off with Harry Blackstone for doing the tours, I loved live theater. And Cary, we did a couple of corporate shows. We did Honda and a few others. I don't really like that world. It's a little too much, it's a one-shot deal. You do it, and if, there's a lot on the line, at least with Harry's show, like if it's Lance's show, you got another try at it the next day or whatever. So the corporate shows, it's not my real cup of tea. But working with Diana is unbelievable because it's all about the client. And Bill Herz, who was another great corporate producer, he's the same. Number one is the client, to please them. The rehearsal, everything is about the client. And what Diana was she sent me what this thing was that we had to try to make magically appear. It really wasn't much magic, but it was kind of a cool reveal more than anything, with the kabuki curtain and some other stuff. And also, Diana, I'm very sorry to hear that Bob Zrake passed away, because he was very helped with it. Yeah,
pure genius.
With all the graphics on it. But it was to really, because trying to tell these corporate people, this medical company, Varian, what this is going to be. I made a little model. Normally, I don't make models. I mean, I just start knocking it out, and usually the prototype turns out to be the finished thing. But this one really needed, so I did like a quarter scale model and brought it up to Silicon Valley and showed it to them, remember? And it was like, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, we get this. And then we did it in Vienna, and then we redid it and did it in San Diego a couple years later, right?
Yeah, and then you did one the next year for me too.
Yeah.
So.
And what's funny is the one in San Diego, we had, as helping us we had Mike Rome and James DeMare, and who else we have? Several other magicians were just helping us. We had to take all these pieces off like really quick. So I just wanted to hire total pros that I knew, I could pull it off. So.
And in Chicago, remember we did it in Chicago too.
Well, that's right. Yeah. So we did it 3 times, didn't we?
We did it. Yeah. But Bill is, you know, he's one of those rare people that not only has the ability to perform on stage, and this is a lesson that Don Seth, who started the junior program, taught me. He would not allow you to be in the children's theater or even perform on the Rabbit in a Hat Magic Club until you learned backstage, until you learned lighting, until you learned the difference between upstage and downstage, until you learned all these things. You could not perform. And that was one of the best lessons that I ever heard. And one of the things that makes Bill so extraordinary, just one of them, is that he has that on-stage sense of timing. So when he designs a magic illusion, he's not just designing a magic illusion. Here's the box, turn it around 3 times, there it is. He is designing something that he understands the psychology of an audience. And that is truly, truly awesome. And it's one of the, and he's just such a joy to work with. I mean, Bill is so cranky as hell.
Well, I can get grumpy every once in a while.
I wanted to get to Steve Barnes and I want to get to Chris Hart too, because
yes. Why don't I jump in real quick? I'm just going to quick shout out, and then I wanted to go to Stephen as well. Look, we've got from Australia, a number of people. Joel Spence has jumped in. Kath Jameson, one of Australia's top female magicians. Again, I don't like defining it that way because I just think she's an amazing magician. But to me, she reminds me of you, Diana. When I worked with her at the Melbourne Magic Festival first time about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. That was the first one I thought of. She had that same energy and chutzpah.
She's fantastic. Let me say, just fantastic.
Amazing.
I mean, right now, you know, Connie Boyd has done so much to put spotlights on female magicians. And, you know, I agree, they shouldn't be differentiated, but we still are, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but she has done so much. But there are like 125 now. Amazing. And she is certainly right up there in the top group. So thank you.
So Susan Lewin, some Nick, you know this Susan Lewin gal, she's jumping.
There'd be no Nick Lewin if it weren't for Susan Lewin.
She says you look so beautiful, Diana. Speaking now, Daryl Sprout, the Serpentine Sorcerer from Texas, incredible, long-time friend, and been working with him. There's Kath, of course. Robin Byers-Pierce, also in Texas, another female magician, amazing, extraordinary. John O'Riordan, Grand Master from originally Ireland, but from now living in England. He's jumping in. There's Kath. Russell Parks, yes. He said the finale was very cool, talking about the junior show. So we got some people who remember this. It's quite amazing. So, and Austin Moody also, he's one of a younger up and coming, one of my students in Texas. So yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to all of you. Jonas Carlson from Sweden, man, great. I think I got everyone. Sharon Dale from Trinidad. Oh, look at this. This is how cool is this? We got literally from all around the globe sharing this, and what an extraordinary cast of people to share their stories. So with that thought, yes, I agree. Let's hop back over to Stephen. Yes, he hasn't had a word here, and now I'll just take it from there.
Well, it's hard to express just how much of an impact, Diana has had on me personally and just on the AMA as a whole. You look now at any given week at that schedule online, and there's alumni. I was there last week. 3 of the performers were alumni of the Junior Society. I'm going up this week to see my old pal, Mark Matsumoto. Then you look at the board of directors. We've got Ed running. We've got the first junior, Rick Gerber, running. We have Michael Lamb running. We have Kerry Ross. So, 4 former juniors, all very successful, running for the board of directors. Then you look at the committee. I mean, I became a junior 37 years ago. I do got to give a shout out and a lot of credit to my vice chairman, David Doyle. He got in the program in 83. Committee member Scott Tokar, another former junior. And of course, we owe a huge debt of gratitude as well to Chris Hart, former junior, who's on the board of trustees and the liaison to the junior department. But, we talk about it all the time. Just, we've had some luck in our lives and success, and none of us would be here today if it was not for Diana Zimmerman.
Oh, I think you'd all be here, but we'd be in separate rooms.
And if Diana had to make a list 30 years ago of who she would see running the junior program today, I am not quite sure I would be on that list, at least not back then.
I have to tell you, Steve was one of the most talented juniors in the program during that time. And he and Bob Dorian, who ran the program for many years, you know, were wonderful friends. But Steve was an obnoxious punk. And it wasn't until years later. And you know what? I think that was wonderful because that was his, you know, that was his drive. I mean, that was kind of his personality. And now I look back and I go, yeah, that was kind of good. But for a long time, I wasn't like Steve's biggest fan. And then I think we met at an airport one time and we started chatting. Yeah. And I went, you know, I think I seriously underestimated this guy. He is really smart and really talented. So then when he wanted to join in the program, I was so happy. And then when he said that he would like to, you know, be Bob Dorian's heir, then that was just incredible. But I had no idea what he and David Doyle, who is an extraordinarily talented person and just a wonderful, wonderful man, what the two of them would do with the program. I mean, they took my little baby and have turned it into something I couldn't even have imagined. You know, it's just so cool. I
mean, it's just so important for us to, you know, give back to you and to a program that has just been so important in our lives. And, you know, we're also very protective of your legacy, you know, and having a program that is the best that could be obviously reflects good on you and the AMA, but we would not be here without you, Diana, and we can't thank you enough.
That echoes my sentiment exactly, Stephen. That's it. To me, and one comes to a point of recognition of that. Here I am talking over this. I just want to say, Cary dropped this one on me. Look at this. Here's another close-up performers. Mike Bernstein, David Grippenwald. Oh my gosh. I'm going to actually spotlight that for everyone. I'll drop everyone out so we can see this. And I want Chris Hart, because Chris and I were in the juniors as well as Ed at the same time. So you're going to disappear for a second, Chris. I'm going to bring you right back. I want to look at this. Oh my goodness. Glenn Falkenstein. There's the committee. Look at that.
Eleanor St. Germain. Oh my goodness. Gene Cantor. Oh.
Thank you, Cary. Cary is pulling these things up in real time. And
oh my gosh, Gary Grayson. Gary Grayson was the lighting designer for the It's Magic show for years and years and years when my ex-husband used to direct the show. Oh my gosh, that's right. He volunteered his time and he came down to, and Paul Butler. Oh my goodness.
Paul Butler, yeah.
Paul is still roaming the halls. I saw him a couple weeks ago.
Cary, thank you so much for doing that, for sending.
And look at this. You got Bert Green, got Peter Pitt, Glenn Falkenstein, Jerry Benson, Jerry Blunt. Oh my gosh, these legends who, again, all of them were instrumental in bringing this all about. You know, there's this extraordinary here we are 40 years later in my case, or 40 some odd years. I mean, 5 years later, right, Diana?
Hey, I'll be 73 in a couple months, so, you know.
Amazing. I want to bring up Christopher and Ed, because we were all in the junior members together.
I want to bring up Christopher and Ed, because we were all in the junior members together.
Yeah,
Jay, I'm just gonna.
I think we're good now. I had to mute. We just get a couple. There we are, Christopher. You're behind me in Hollywood Magic.
Well,
we're getting a bit of a.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a shout out, Jay, because you're doing a great job as a host, but we're not really talking about your accomplishment, which, you know, we go way back, Hollywood Magic junior program. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but I think you were the first junior to work at night at the Magic Castle. You had excelled to the point that your act was so good to be able to be worthy. And so you really opened that door for what is now Future Stars of Magic, where we do that once a year. So we have you to thank for being able to transition as a young underage act working at night. You were the first guy.
Well, thank you. And that was Peter Pitt and Diana and Jules Lanier went to the board of directors. Again, what I didn't realize at the time was how much arm twisting had to go to the board of directors to get these decisions made. Yeah. So yes, certainly I was the guy on stage as we all were trying to do our best. But it's only later on that you realize how much was going on behind the scenes, and even opposition. You know, we mentioned Ron Wilson. He never liked me, and I didn't understand it till years later. He was always in opposition, and you realize, well, I don't understand what I did, and nothing in his memory, but now I understand that he didn't want the junior members to begin with. It was like that, oh, we don't want these kids running around. You go, oh, okay, he had his... But exactly. I mean, Chris, that was, you know, thank you for bringing that up, because it opened, and I always say, well, look, it opened the door. Because Danny Scott was in, and then you were in, and then it allowed these younger members. It set the precedent. So yeah, outstanding.
Well, your act was really great, and you delivered, and so it was a lot of pressure on you, because if you didn't deliver the quality to be able to worthy at night, it would have failed. So
thanks.
but it's interesting because when Diana says, you know, she's doesn't think she has as impact as she does. I mean, it's an idea that needed to be done, because I joined, as we all did, magic when I'm learning from books and stuff, but I couldn't keep it going. I didn't know how to do it. So it's only when I joined a magic club that I had a place to meet, right? And then I went to the Magic Castle through this junior club in 1977. And I think the junior program had started in 75, right? Mm-hmm. So this program I learned by visiting the Magic Castle, and it was only 2 years old. So then I auditioned. And like Ed, I actually had an audition a couple times. It's funny, back then it was 80% stage acts. Stage acts were super strong back then because of review shows. Now it's opposite, it's 80% close-up, right? Because magic trends change, David Blaine's and stuff, so Shin Lim's. So I'm trying to instill education in stage magic to encourage those that might want to do it, but the markets have changed, right? There's no more review shows in Vegas. But to my point, Diana, is that if I didn't have the Magic Castle to come to, I wouldn't sustain. You need a hub, you need peers, you need mentorship, you need support. You know, it's a watering hole. And that's really beyond you, Diana. It's a Magic Castle. I mean, we need to bow to the creation of the Larson family creating this hub, right? That so many people come to. So it goes beyond us as well.
Well, I think if it weren't for Bill and Irene and their ultimate support, and especially Irene Larson, who was such a supporter of it, she and I would go to battle oftentimes. And it's really hard to argue with Irene Larson, if you haven't noticed. but you're absolutely right, Chris. And again, somebody did that for me. Don Seth and the Rabbit Center Hat Magic Club did that for me. And but you know, when you everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs a valet. There's a wonderful story about Hemingway, and they asked, some young reporter asked Hemingway, you know, to what do you attribute your success? And Hemingway said, my valet. And he went, what? You know, your valet? And he said, many a time I'd be too drunk to get out of bed. My valet would shake me and say, Mr. Hemingway, you have great things to do today. Or I'd throw my script into the fire, and my valet would go get it. Can you imagine throwing a that was before computers, you know, Hemingway script in the fire, and he'd brush off the ashes and say, Mr. Hemingway, you must finish this. You have great things to do today. And so all of us need a valet, and the valets that we got, the people that believed in us, you know, the Peter Pitts, the Di Vernons, the Nick Lewins and Steve Barnes and Bill Smiths and Lance Burtons and Chris Harts and Ed Alonzo's of today, you know, I mean, we're giving to our community back. And so it's just so important. I mean, I wouldn't be able to be in magic if it weren't for the Rabbit Center Hat Magic Club. I would have probably just, you know, I mean, it was so hard, because even when I won trophies, you know, I was hated. And even at the castle, you know, I'd be hated. And I remember performing one time, and I was standing on stage, and a bunch of the idiots that run around there, because there are a lot of nice people, but there are a lot of jerks too. We're standing there and say, oh, if she didn't have tits, excuse my language, if she didn't have tits, she wouldn't be on that stage, you know. And I was auditioning for an agent that night. And fortunately, he looked at it and said, what a bunch of jerks run around here. But I did get the job. But the reality is that it's been rough. And it's not just rough for girls. I know, you know, right. Every person in magic has had people that have, I mean, people will say terrible things. I mean, Copperfield or Siegfried and Roy or mean, I think Lance Burton's the only person I know that nobody's ever said a nasty word about, but maybe I just haven't heard it. But I mean, you know, all of us, I mean, Ed Alonzo, you know, was a wonderful actor, became a wonderful actor, and he still is, you know, he's amazing. And J. Scott Barry, but, you know, there is that side of the community that wants to put people down. And so when you have a group that can support and bring positive, and nobody does that better than Chris Hart. I mean, Chris is just phenomenal.
That's not you to say. I will say this. It's amazing that for me to visit the castle in 1977, hear about the junior program, and then many years later, that's also where I met David Copperfield. When I went to the castle, I went to the lecture, we were allowed to go, and then they introduced David Copperfield, a young guy from New York, coming to do a special, and I later worked for Copperfield. So all these things crossed my path that affected my life. But again, when I was there at the castle, I never thought that one day I would be a trustee, now supporting the junior program. So it comes full circle. And I love when I see Lance doing his IBM kids groups, and Bill Smith, they're all these people that support, because we're all inspired. We need that. And Mondre just posted on the AMA Castle page, he was inspired by a African-American magician that was on Boys Life magazine. And
yeah, Dale Penn.
Yeah, and he just posted a photo of meeting this guy, came to see him at the castle. So here's this young boy being inspired by Life magazine, Boys Life magazine, and now this mentor didn't even know him, right? So we never know who's we're inspiring and onto greatness. So, but yeah, so I'm trying to give back because I got so much out of it. So I know the importance of this group. So, and I have to give you credit, Diana. You know, it's easy to say, oh, I started the group and let others handle it. You were at almost every single meeting. And this is long before I became the liaison, where I try and show up at every meeting. You've been doing this for 40 years.
45 years. How many years is it? 1975. That's a lot of Saturdays, by golly. And we have auditions coming up, and we have a girl auditioning next month. So I am really excited because we still don't have enough girls in the program. But
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in real quick because I want to get to Ed. I would again thank you, Chris. That was brilliant. Thank you. Just so much respect for you. And I'm going to second everything you said. This idea, you reach a point where you want to give back, and then you realize you have to give back. There's this standing on the shoulders of giants. I keep coming back to that idea. Now I'm going to, hold on, we're getting mute someone here, mute. I think
while you're doing that, I just want to thank my sister, because my sister was also very important. My sister, Cynthia, she was also very, very important in my career, and very supportive, has always been supportive of everything I've done in my writing. She proofreads everything I write, my books and everything. She's just a remarkable human being. Without support, you can't do it. And that's what we do at the program. So, well,
there were two things that I just want to quickly tell a couple stories, because exactly what Chris said, and you followed up with the idea that I remember Dick Zimmerman, one of the most powerful bits of advice. Now, this was right after, I went in thinking very wide-eyed, very idealistic, thinking I'm going to come in with this act and they're all going to love me. It's like, no, it didn't work out that way. There was a lot of jealousy, a whole lot of, as you say, whether it was because you're tits or whether because he's young and he's cocky, whatever. Dick sat me down at the bar one day and he goes, look at everyone here. If you make friends with half of them, you will instantly make enemies of the other half. You have to come to terms with that. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it's a social club. It's not the castle itself. It's just, that's how humans are. And he actually gave me this incredible fatherly, he says, and don't take it personally. That was it. Because you got your people who love you. And just like today, there's always going to be the haters, no matter what, no matter how great or how, there's always going to be the haters. So he sort of helped me come to terms with that early on. And one more quick story. Again, I have a lot of, Chris, there's so many amazing memories. You were always there. I remember we were in the library, and one of these many times, a handful of us were all in the library, and you turned to me and he goes, Jay, I think your act would go really well in Europe and European conventions. And being as kind of as upstart and defiant as I was, I said, well, maybe I don't want to perform for magicians. I remember this so vividly. Guess what I ended up doing? I ended up going off to Europe, an entire career in, 20 years performing in Europe, not just magicians, but you pegged it. You said, you saw the artistic style, and you said, where some acts were going to Vegas, you early on said, I think your act would go really well in Europe. And boom, it was like prophetic, because right after the FISM boom, I was on the conventions, and that sort of set my whole career off.
Well, Jay has always been ahead of the game. Jay has always been ahead of the game when it came to coming up with visual ideas and just magical ideas. And Chris too, because what's more magical than his floating hand or that the terror that he does with this sheet music there is
one of the great pieces of art.
The greatest, the musical, routines. But Jay has always been right on the cutting edge of things, when it came to, it's like Nick Lewin, when it comes to comedy. Nick has always been just such a genius and Ed Alonzo, he is a true brand. Ed isn't just a magician. Ed is a brand, and believe me, as one of the, she says modestly, top branding experts in the corporate world, that's one of the things that I do is brand. I do brands for all.
In fact, I want to bring Ed up because I've always had so much. Now, Ed, it was great to hear you being so humble about your act, and it was such a bad act. I thought the telephone act was really clever. I remember the Sigmund and Freud. I remember so much of that, but I've always had such respect for you. You came out of Bakersfield. You were already doing a kids' TV show. You had this incredible side experience that others of us didn't have, and you took that on to, being a television star on a major sitcom with the Saved by the Bell. You've designed for Michael Jackson. I could go on, but I'm going to drop me and Chris out for a moment because I just want you and Diana to chat for a bit because extraordinary respect for you, Ed, and just great to see you here. So all good. Cheers.
We all know Ed as a performing genius, but maybe all of you don't know that he's also a creative genius. He comes up with the most amazing and incredible ideas. And again, it's using magic as your foundation, not your ceiling, kind of like what Bill Smith does, kind of like what all of you do, Nick and Chris and all that, and Lance, of course, but Ed is he just doesn't think the same way that other people think. He just has this unique ability to be able to not only be incredibly funny, but storytelling and make you care about him. And then to be able to go out and just design phenomenal ideas. He's amazing.
All of these
for a man.
You from watching you over the years.
Oh yeah, right.
Seeing Dick Zimmerman. Just the other day, I was trying to learn the dancing ring on the rope. It's not easy. And it was a piece of material that I thought, why do more people in magic do this trick? And so I had one of the legitimate ones that Dick used to sell. And I pulled it out of there and I started messing with it. It's not easy. And it is a big creative piece of magic that is a miracle. And that's why we only see a few people do it. And I've seen over the years that for me, if I'm doing something that is easy, then I'm able to be more of an actor or a character. And that's really what has kind of helped me. But I have to say, watching you through the years, when you were a performer in the elegant evening gowns and back to the record act, the color changing records. I remember seeing those kind of paper records in the magic shops. And then I would see yours on stage and they were real 45s coming out of there. It was just incredible how everything was so believable. And it was amazing, really amazing. And so I've always tried to put those kind of ideas into what I do, make things feel natural to people to where they know, oh, it's a record album. Oh, it's something simple. That way they can identify with it. And then it's much easier to tell a story or to add some comedy or, put in what you bring to it. And I think that's one of the main goals is just entertaining people. And like you say, using magic as a foundation and using those words that you said to all of us many years ago, for me, it really stands true because I've always used magic to catapult me to another level, even if it was just meeting someone because they want to have me near them because I'm a magician to teach them something. The people like the Michael Jacksons and the Britney Spears and the Katy Perrys, all interested in magic. and interested in me sharing my advice on things that I think would be natural and well done in their performance arms. So all of these things, from watching you as an author, as a stage performer, as a lecturer, as a speaker, and, you know, like, you know, the Dick Zimmerman quote where, look at half the people here, they're going to be your friends and the other half won't. What is so amazing about the magic community is when Jay years ago said, oh, I don't want to do magic for magicians, I, as a young guy, when I was about 16, 17, I kind of felt the same way. I felt, I don't want to do magic for magicians. But you know what? It turns out that about 75% of all the work that I do as a magician has come from other magicians in other countries, a magician there who wants to bring me to Spain, a magician in Japan who brings, so it's always about magicians helping other magicians. And I learned that early on from hanging out with you and Dick Zimmerman and Peter Pitt and all the greats at the Magic Castle back in the early
I
days.
have to say my ex-husband is one of the greats in magic. He truly is. He's living in Illinois now. We're very good friends. People always ask me that. But his lecture, Think Creative, I think is still one of the best lectures ever in magic. He's also one of the nicest people you ever want to meet, and funny as all get out, and so creative. The dancing ring that you mentioned, we used to laugh because we used to sell, this probably has sold more of these and have fewer of them performed than any trick. That Rabbi Yang, one of our juniors, does a beautiful job with it. But it is very hard to do. I could never learn to do it. He used to work with me to try to do it because I wanted to do it with, you know, but I just didn't have the patience to learn to do it. But Dick is an extraordinarily brilliant, magnificent human being, and Lance, you're going to say something?
And an amazing piano player, jazz piano. Go ahead, Lance.
I had one of those dancing ring on the rope things, and when I was a teenager, that is a hard trick to do, but I loved to stand in front of the mirror and practice it because it's such a magical looking trick. But listen, I know we're getting close to the 90-minute mark here. So before we run out of time, I just want to say one thing to you, Diana. I want to say, imagine a world where Diana wasn't in it and she didn't start the Magic Castle Junior group, because all of the people you have influenced, and now they're on the board, and people they've influenced, and the program that I do with Jeff McBride and Larry Haas and Eugene Berger originally for at the Desert Seminar, and now at the IBM, our youth group. All the things you've done in your life, Diana, and you've done amazing things on stage and in the corporate world and in the business world. But let me just say this. Whenever we would get together to start our Lance Burton Teen Seminar, we would gather together, and Eugene Berger would look at us. He would look at me, and he would look at Jeff McBride, and he would say, remember, this is the most important thing that we do.
I love that. Oh, that's going to make me cry.
And I just want to say thank you for your perseverance, and thank God for Cary Grant for being your buddy and getting that thing going, and for sticking with it. And on behalf of all of the young magicians and all of the former young magicians, thank you, Diana. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank all of you, because I mean, honestly, you know, imagine I started the program and you guys hadn't shown up. And you know, Nick Lewin now has a whole mentorship program going too that you can do. And can you imagine being mentored by Nick Lewin? I mean, you know, my goodness gracious, and Bill Smith, and you know, Bill's son is a wonderfully brilliant producer, music composer, right? And for shows and everything, and Chris Hart and J. Scott Berry and Ed Alonzo and Steve Barnes. And also I want to just give a real quick shout out to Brooke Swatell again, and to Steven Sears, because my career now is shifting into trying to get my books made into a TV series. And those two are just phenomenal mentors to me. I mean, you know, they are just, Steven Sears is one of the best writers, and Brooks Littell has won Emmys, and he's a brilliant writer, and they're also patient with me and work with me. and so, you know, they're giving back to me now and helping me. And so it's this full circle of incredible people. I mean, I am.
You know about her fairy books?
I know about them. I haven't read or anything.
Yeah.
The Candide.
Absolutely. And I just don't know. TV, they're going to be movies, Diana.
Yes.
We're working on it.
It's funny, like they got names of.
Yeah, we have some incredible people. Ed Alonzo of The Boys.
She's got a lot of magic. Like Paul Stone's a character. Peter Ravine.
Paul Stone, yeah, he just came back he's just in Blackville. But
I mentioned that Connie Boyd is, give a shout out to Connie. She's jumped onto the chat. There's a lot of people there that just haven't, you know, said anything, but shout out to Connie.
Connie is
and Brooks keeps, go ahead. I'm sorry, Diana, please.
Connie is one of the great women today. I mean, not only is she a brilliant performer, but she is doing what you're doing, Jay, for the women in magic. And there is no one I have, you know, Connie is phenomenal. Not only is she a wonderful performer, she's like you guys, just incredibly nice. She's so busy right now. I can't believe she had time to come in because she's moving her show over from to Las Vegas from Europe. And she's a great lady, and she's someone that would be great to profile too, as are all. I mean, everyone here would make an incredible story. So
they're all on my list.
I was so excited. All I wanted to do in Vanish was to write a story about you. And my editor said, no, Connie is writing the series that is definitive. And this should be in that series. And I said, I hate you, Paul.
But I got to write your story. I got to write
you did, and thank you.
And I'm going to tell you, there's another guy, Paul, you know, who has Vanish magazine. There is another magical thinker. There is another guy who is taking this whole idea of magic and things to new levels. He's a great genius. He's just amazing. I just think he's incredible.
I'll just say, Diana, for me, you're always an example of perseverance and not giving up. Like you live your trait in real life. And I will quote what I heard from David Copperfield, which is, when you have the ball, they try and tackle you. So.
Well, that was the quote I got from Di Vernon. That quote came from Di. That was it. Yeah. He says, don't worry about it, kid. They don't try to tackle you unless you're running with the ball. That was what he said to me in the library while chomping on his cigar. So that went out to, and then I guess he also said it to Harry Anderson, because then I remember Harry Anderson repeating it at the store. Mm-hmm. But the first one I got that ever understood that came from was Di.
Yeah.
So it's absolute timeless truth. You know, so
all of you have been tackled, except maybe Lance. I don't know. I've never heard of unkind word about
Lance is the best, though, man. Lance has worked his butt off to get where he is. I always say that.
Well, and you know, when you go back to being, you know, at FISM and how they were attacking Lance, and we all stood around with Peter Pitt trying to protect his table and everything, because it was a lot of rumors that they were going to sabotage him. They did not want an American to win. They did an American.
I was guarding Lance's lamppost, and Dick was up in the booth and making sure that they didn't mess, because there was sabotage going on.
Yeah.
We won that in Europe. That was a big deal.
It's another it was a scary moment. But when he went out on that stage, when Lance walked out on that stage, and the minute he began, you could hear the gasp, and everyone knew that for the first time in the history of magic, one of Hank Vermeiden's guys wasn't going to win. It was going to be an American.
It was the hair. It was the hairdo.
Well,
it was the talent.
It was, you know, you caused so many magicians from the Magic Castle to have to go to the body shop who didn't want to go there.
I want to have Lance on just so we can talk about the body shop.
The body shop was a strip joint, by the way.
It was a cabaret because it had magicians.
It was easier to get agents and buyers to come see you at the body shop than it was to get them to come see you at the Magic Castle.
Oh my goodness. I can't thank you all enough, and your kind words. You've made my day. And
wow.
Well, thank you.
All right,
Diana.
I'm going to sort of go around. I'm going to drop one more thing. I keep coming back to exactly what Lance was trying to say, is that if you look at a timeline, you can imagine just the lineage, and if you take one person out, what happens? And I think if we took Diana out of the timeline, so many things that we see in magic now collapse. We've got obviously everyone here, but everyone we've taught, everyone we've influenced, all the hundreds of other juniors. Just Neil Patrick Harris, he came through the juniors. I mean, just you can't even. It's like you can't even begin. The more you look at it, the more you realize how much effect. By again your perseverance and your willingness to go to bat for all of us and get the juniors going. So I'm going to drop around. Ed, I'm going to give you a chance for sort of final thoughts, kind of roll around as we wrap this up.
Well, first of all, I could not have any success at all if it wasn't for the junior program. And when I say the junior program, in the early days, it was Diana Zimmerman was the junior program. And it was, even though there were other people helping her, Bob Dorian and Peter Pitt and other people were around, Diana took control of the thing. And she was a strong woman figure in my life to tell me the right things to do and the wrong things to do as a performer. And I took those things to heart, and I still, remember the good, positive, reinforcing words, but also criticism that I never took and thought it as a bad thing, but criticism that I would think about of things that she would say that certainly turned my whole career around as a magician, as an actor. And wow, thank you so much, Diana Zimmerman.
You're so sweet.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Stephen, can I jump to you? I know you haven't had as much to say, but you're the guy who's running everything, as Diana says. You've taken the reins of this. So again, let's get some final thoughts from you. You're the one taking this now actively into the future. We're supporting you. I think every one of us, I can kind of speak for everyone, that we're behind you in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. Well, to go back, I mean, we were talking about all these names. I mean, and the influence that they've had. I mean, you look at, Ed Alonzo, Rick Gerber in the corporate world, Mark Kalin, Michael Weber, Kevin James. I mean, the list. And then you've got the next generation of people that are out there killing it. Matt Marcy and Danny Cole and Joel Ward. For me, the only thing, first off, it's just a beyond honor to be running this alongside my vice chairman, Dave Doyle. But the only thing better than currently being in charge as the junior program is the fact that I get to do it with Diana still involved, that I get to actively work with her. She's amazing to work with. We have a terrific committee, but to me, that's the best part. It's just come full circle. There's been very few people, her and Bob Dorian, that have just, outside of family members, that have played such a dominant role in my life. I'm going to be 52. I've known Diana since I was 14, and, I've known her consistently over those 37, 38 years. So I will do this as long as they allow me to, just to honor her, to honor Bob, to honor the Junior Society.
Well, if they try not to, stick them on me.
Thank you, Stephen. I really look forward to working with you more. I've sort of already extended that, said, look, I'm on board from a distance, but my heart's in it 100%.
Appreciate that.
Nick, do you want to jump in? Final thoughts. I'm sorry, Diana.
Talk Jay into doing a lecture for the juniors.
I'm doing virtual lectures. I'm doing virtual shows, lectures. So yeah, that's we're definitely open to that.
There is the award that was in the picture with Lance and Diana from 31 years ago.
In fact, I'm doing a series of Zoom storming master classes, a very intense, like 8-9 week set. I was going to ask you, Stephen, we may give a couple of free, let's discuss this separately, but yeah. I was thinking that like some of the top juniors that you thought would benefit most from that. I'm happy to give them sort of as a comp.
Just reach out to me. That'd be great.
Okay, we'll talk about that. All right, Nick, let's jump to you.
All right,
real
Nick,
quick.
let's jump to you.
Well, I was a little too old to be considered a junior. I wish I'd been a junior when that was going on. I missed that. But I was a senior. I was proud to be a part of what was going on because I knew that was the direction that was happening and needed to happen. But most of all, on a personal level, I've just enjoyed watching the way you've pivoted. You've never stopped. You've moved on, you've moved upward, and it is an inspiration to me and I think to everyone who looks at what you do.
Thank you. I'm going to cry here in a minute, you guys.
And I'll second every bit of that.
I mean that so much from my heart.
Yeah. Can somebody say something nasty? So, you know, when I wrote the Siegfried and Roy book, Siegfried says, I said, Siegfried, how do you like the book? He says, it is very nice, but could you find somebody to say something that wasn't nice about me? Which is why he loved Penn Jillette, because Penn Jillette had the funniest article in all. So you can say something nasty too.
Good. Look, I'm going to jump over to Bill. Bill, again, everyone here, I would love to do this all over again because there's so many stories. But Bill, please jump in with some final thoughts here.
I don't know how many went, but Dick and Diana had the best magic parties. Absolute best. Like, a couple times a year. And as a young Long Beach mystic, when I finally got invited to one, and man, and that's, you know, the friendship, 45 years we've been friends and collaborators, and I really love you. Appreciate everything you've done. Really do.
Yeah. Thank you.
We did have good parties.
But also, if you want something mean, don't go to dinner with her and order a steak. That's the only thing I could say.
I'm vegan and an animal.
And that's not mean, but what? Okay, so.
Diana and I are the living examples of the vegan lifestyle, right?
Diana, while she's sitting right here, this is, she's a little wiggly. This is Moyo. She was, she's, maybe I can tilt the thing down and you can see her. She had surgery about 3 weeks ago. She's still wearing the cone, but she's going to get that off in a few days. But she was born on Gary Darwin's back porch, and she's been blind since she was a few weeks old because she had an eye infection. That's the only reason I got her, because these cats were wild, but she had an eye infection, and so she was basically blind. And I was able to catch her and take her. I was gonna just try to foster the cats, but then, you know, you bottle feed them, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not giving these cats up. I love them now. But anyway,
Lance has done so much for animals. I rescue dogs, and I'm involved with a lot of animal rescues. And Lance has done so much for the animals in Las Vegas, and I assume you're doing the same with the animal organizations in Kentucky.
Yeah, we have some really great organizations here in Kentucky. We have the Kentucky Humane Society, and there's some local shelter here that I'm going to try to get involved with. So yeah, I always whenever I see an animal, I'll post a lot. If anybody here follows me on social media, about 10% of my posts are about magic and shows, and about 90% are about animals that need homes that are up for adoption.
Same with mine. With mine.
Great. Lance, any last words you want to drop into this as we wrap this up? Again, I just want to say fantastic. Great to see you, my friend. All of you.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thanks for inviting me. And it's happy to be here to honor Diana. And Diana, just again, thank you on behalf of all the young magicians and all the former young magicians. Thank you for what you started and what continues on throughout the world now. The ripples will be reverberating long after all of us are gone.
Well, we're just getting started, aren't we, guys?
Great. Now, Chris, did you want to give any last thoughts there?
Sure. This is very interesting, this hour and a half. I've been trying to figure out for years of my life who to blame that I'm a magician. And I think I've come to realize it's Diana Zimmerman.
I love you, Chris. That's wonderful. I think one of the happiest times in my life was when we started Magic Castle Partners and I became a villain and I got booed. But we saved the castle. So
get back at you, Diana. One day you'll rue the day.
I love it.
All right. If anyone wants to take a screenshot, I'm going to do this screenshot here. We all are. Cheers, everyone. Screenshot on. Yes. Hopefully we're all. What a team. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to drop everyone out except Diana and have some final just with her. But again, thank you really sincerely for joining us. Wonderful to see all of you, my dear friends.
Love you,
Stay
Diana.
strong. Keep the magic alive. You know, it's all burning.
Thank you. You made my day and my night and my week.
We started looking up at the ones who were carrying the torch, and now the torch is passed to us. It's just so. Wow, Chris, wonderful. Great to see you. Stephen, we'll chat soon about some things. Bill, keep building those amazing illusions. Thank you so much. Great to see you. It's been so long. Oh, and buddy, Chris, you are the man. Keep it up. All right, I'm going to give a final push to this because I just want to pop this up. Anyone who's interested in the books, Candide.com. I am so supporting this idea to get these onto television and film. They're just beautiful stories. You've put so much of your heart and soul into these. So as Nick and others were saying, it's building upon that magic mindset. I mean, I love the idea of, I agree completely with what you said. It's not a ceiling, it's a foundation. You know, how we build, use magic as a foundation and as artists and use that magical thinking. So I'm going to give final thoughts to you, Diana.
Well, I think the most important thing about the books are set in a world where physical perfection isn't just a desire, it's the law. And all of us, whether it's in magic or anywhere else, have been in a world where we've been made fun of because we're different. I was bullied as a kid. I was beat up as a kid because I was a vegetarian and I did magic. And all of us have gone through that. And when I wrote these books, I wrote them with the idea of inspiring kids that being different is what makes you special. It's what makes you unique. So in this world, if you're imperfect, you're sent away. You're sent into my background. You're sent into this dark, dreary mist where most people don't survive. And that's true in our world too. And so the letters that I get from books and the letters that I've gotten from kids, even 10 years later, I got a letter from a boy. He said, I don't know if you remember me, but my name was Idris. And he said, I would have joined a gang and probably been dead now if I hadn't read your books. And another girl sent me a letter saying, you know, that she left her abusive husband because she was able to see that because she was different, she didn't think anybody would like her. And then she realized after reading my books that she was better. And so these books can change the world, and they have changed the world for thousands of kids all over. I think we sold like 300,000 copies of the books. And it's just amazing what all of us can do. And just with a simple thing. And that's why we're working so hard to make it a television show and a series, because you know, we wouldn't have a Black president if we hadn't had Black presidents on TV. We wouldn't have, you know, Will and Grace did more for gay rights than just almost anybody. And so we can change the world with people that are different too. And these books have done it. And you guys are all doing it. And everyone in magic does it because we're all different. We're not anyway the same as normal people. And J. Scott Barry's changing the world, and Lance and Chris and Bill. And you're just, it's so important that we just do that we just put aside silly things and do that. And you know, rescue an animal, do whatever, you know, just say something nice to somebody, you know, that's all. Thank you. I can't believe you did this, Jay. I'm so honored. Thank you. You're muted. Jay, you're muted. Jay, you're muted.
I apologize. I'm looking down and trying to talk. Yes, 100%. I'm agreeing with everything you said. Yeah, the smallest thing you know, sometimes it's the smallest thing we can do. A drop becomes the ripple becomes the waves turn the tide. So these real simple concepts. What I was saying is I want to give one final shout out to Kerry Ross, who's been he's been like my guy in the backstage, going, hey, Diana did the Gramophone Act on the It's Magic at the Variety Arts, October of '77, and he assisted you backstage that year. So he was sending me up these other things. So huge thanks. Huge shout out to everyone. Annabelle Gray just jumped on.
Annabelle is amazing. Annabelle is my dearest friends, and I love you, Annabelle. She's phenomenal. She's working on a book now about Billy McComb. So,
fantastic, excellent, wonderful to see you, Diana. Let's keep up this good momentum. Again, thanks to everyone, all of my guests. Best wishes to everyone. Just what can we say? I feel honored to have a moment just to recognize and express my gratitude to such an amazing woman. Because like everyone here, I would not be here if it weren't for you, Diana. And I recognize that all the time. So,
well, I don't believe that, but I believe that your talent would have catapulted you to success no matter what. But
perhaps a different direction, but exactly. I mean, we all in the same way. We would have done other things, but yes, it's certainly that integral part of my story and everyone else's here. So with dearest gratitude and thankfulness and just great respect. Come on, I think you deserve the recognition, and that's kind of what this has all been about. So
I'm going to be floating on Clyde 9 for a long time tonight.
Good for you. We look forward to that. Keep writing. Want to see that movie, and we'll keep in touch in social media and other ways. But yeah, wonderful.
Thank you, everybody, for logging on too. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, and thank all my people that invited, and thank you for sharing your incredible words. I don't know what else to say. I'm so touched.
That's it. Keep the magic alive. Excellent. Thanks, Diana.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
And here we go. We are out of here. Look, I'm not going to even attempt to top any of that. That was just extraordinary, except for a final thanks to everyone, to Stephen, to Lance, to Christopher, to Nick, to, of course, Diana, to everyone, Ed, just some of these people I haven't seen in so long. Just a great reunion, a great opportunity for that reunion. So we will see you next week, but this was worth it right here. Nick's just messaging me here. What an amazing guy. Good. Thanks so much. Please feel free to share. The recording of this will stay up. So anyone who didn't catch it, stays up on any of the pages. You can always share it out to your page. It'll be on, I think, Lance's page, my page, of course, the Junior Alumni page. So it's basically, and of course, we'll make sure it goes into the Magic Castle archives as part of the whole process we're doing. We want to make sure the junior members have this as a part of their history. So, all right. And we are out of here. Here comes the cool music.